Everybody, it's John Ross with the XPian Daily Report for this Monday, July 10th. And today we're going to have a special treat. We're going to learn more about something that's really a community-based program that's been there many years. We're going to learn about Hesed House. And I'm going to bring up our guest today. Where did my guest go? There he Joe, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring up Joe Jackson here. I think I didn't tell Joe that I do a little bit of everything on this thing, so that explains why some things we have a few glitches. Every so often. But I'm happy to have Joe with us here today, and we just welcome him. He's the managing director of Hesed House, and he's got a lot of responsibilities. And we've talked with Ryan, and Ryan is a little health thing right now, right? Ryan is recovering, but he'll be back. But Joe is handling the situation, and we're just going to be talking about the Hesed House in Aurora with Joe. And I know a big thing, Joe. I'm going to take down this middle thing here, our little logo. It's a nice logo. We'll just take it down now.
Thank you.
Get a little more together here. About COVID-19 and how's that affected? I know that's going to be a big part of our discussion, what COVID-19 has done with Hesed House and the homeless in Aurora. So, Joe, why don't you just give us a little about your background, too. First, why don't we just give you a little background, how long you've been with Hesed and how did you get in this ministry?
Sure. So I've been with Hesed now for coming up on 2 years. Actually, I think my 2-year anniversary is in the next couple of days. And I came to Hesed House from the corporate world. So before this, I worked at Liberty Mutual Insurance at a regional office, claims and operational efficiency, lean, Six Sigma stuff in Warrenville. And then I went to Discover Financial, so the credit card company, and did that there for a number of years. And, you know, I liked the corporate world, but, you know, I just wasn't really finding the fulfillment that I was looking for. And so my path happened to cross with Ryan as I was getting my MBA at Aurora University.
Okay.
He was my professor for 2 of my classes. We kept in contact afterwards. And as I started to think about transitioning into the nonprofit world, he became a bit of a mentor for me. And the idea of working in homelessness has been a passion of mine because my wife of 10 years now, the first 9 years of her life, she was homeless. So, something that, you know, hearing her stories and the things that she went through, it's nothing that I think anybody should ever have to endure or have to experience. And so it made sense, the fit with Hesed House to go there and work with the great people that we have on staff to try to end this homelessness thing, because there's no need for it in today's society. We can end this thing. So
that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up about it's with our economy and with our country and our wealth, there should be no homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Ryan, I know you're working and with your services there. Some of the homelessness is not necessarily an employment problem. It might be a lot of other issues. It could be mental illness, could be addictions, could be, I don't know, could be a lot of other things too. Just at the time being not able to pay that bill and you're homeless and your rent. So a lot of factors here. But now the COVID-19 put Hesed House and some of its members in a hotel for a while. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we had, I believe it was 3 individuals and 2 staff members contract COVID-19. At that point, we moved all the adult men and women to a hotel up in a northern suburb of Chicago, and we moved all of our families off-site to more of a local hotel here in the area. And we were up in the hotel up north for 31 days.
Okay.
And what that allowed us to do, we were able to isolate everybody in their own room and make sure that that virus did not spread to anybody else. So we stifled that virus spread that we were experiencing at our shelter. And once that was done and we had everybody test negative for the virus, we were able to move everybody from the hotel back to Hesed House at that time. And we've been back at Hesed House now since May. So
since May.
Mhm.
I remember about that, going to that hotel. Thought was out there quite. It was a pretty big thing to do, to take people away and transport them and the whole thing. So
Absolutely.
that was a big thing. Now you've been back, and I'm going to show this. I'm not going to play this probably, but I'm going to show. I want to tell everybody they can. I'm going to put this up. But go on the website and you can get a little update there. It was in Memorial Day update, but I think it explains some of these things we were going to be talking about with Ryan. He talks about different approaches you're doing right now, and I'll try to touch base, and you can remind me of. I'm probably going to miss some things, but just you fill me in on that. But so, because when you came back, you separated the constituents, right, or something. Can you explain that a little bit? And I just
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when we came back, we were still under a lockdown order from the King County Health Department and various organizations in the city of Aurora. So what that meant was we were able to make use of our temporary shelter space that we created across the street from our main building at 680 South River Street. And there, we're able to house and shelter people that had come back from the hotel with us. We were not able to take in individuals who did not come to the hotel or left the hotel early, things like that. So we were truly put on a lockdown. And over time, with the various precautions that we had in place, and as the state of Illinois moved through the various phases from Governor Pritzker, we were able to then have that lockdown lifted. And so, now we're back to the point where we're able to take in new people, people who, opted out of the hotel situation are able to come back. Folks can come and go as they please throughout the day. And the reason that's all able to happen is because of the precautions that we put in place in conjunction with the King County Health Department, from the universal masking policies to having hand washing stations and hand sanitizer everywhere and used extremely frequently throughout the day. Daily temperature and symptom checks. So we take everybody's temperature, ask them about symptoms of COVID every day. And so those are the things. And also, I'm sorry, part of the most important piece is the frequent testing. So through Aunt Martha's, our partnership with them, we're able to universally test everybody, our staff, our guests, folks that would like to come in off the streets to stay with us. We're able to test everybody every 2 weeks.
Okay, wow.
So, and what that does, it allows us to identify people that may be asymptomatic, but do have the virus. And if anyone were to test positive, we can then isolate those folks before the virus spreads throughout the population. So
I want to ask, now this is a question I've heard a lot of people discuss. Are those tests getting back pretty timely, or is it, what's the reason? What would you say on that?
So the tests we're getting them back typically in about a week's time.
Okay.
So I know as testing first started, it was 2 to 3 days. We're typically getting ours sometime, 5 to 6 days, that type of time.
Okay. Well, I know it's not your built-in fault or anything like that. I'm just, that is a big need to get that back as quick as possible. And
Sure.
It helps you and everybody to make decisions.
Especially with the folks coming in off the street, because with the health department, we have to have a negative COVID test before somebody comes into our shelter who's been on the streets or is newly homeless.
Okay, so That's your
That
newer
test period.
people, huh? You have to.
Correct.
Now, is that right away you do those tests, or you got to wait 2 weeks, or how does that work?
So we have 3 specific days every 2 weeks that are blocked off, but folks can go. We can get people into Aunt Martha's just about any day to go in and get
Okay,
that test
but
done.
I mean these new people when you come
Mhm.
by. Yeah, I know that's a very important thing because, yeah, you could be walking in and have it,
Yep.
and then it would just be dynamite there,
Mhm.
and you don't need that. And I got a little picture here that you had a graphic, a nice little graphic here. This is basically how it looks in your across the street site.
Right.
And what was the difference on the 2 sites? I forgot. You had one population and the other different. How was that? What's the population at the one site and the other? I forgot.
Sure. It's all been flipped upside down right now, like so many things with COVID.
Oh, okay.
So part of our situation is through updated occupancy numbers from the city of Aurora. Our main shelter building, which previously housed, on average 250 to 300
Right.
people
Mhm.
every day of the year, the maximum occupancy there has been, we've been advised from the city of Aurora that it's 115.
550?
115.
Oh,
So
115.
it's
Okay.
been, yeah, it's been cut by, well
Oh,
over
geez, almost
60%.
half or more. Yeah.
So that's why we've really tried to make use of the building across the street, because there we've been told we can have up to 137 individuals.
Okay.
So in that temporary shelter across the street, we have about 130 plus men and women in tents, like you can see on the screen right now,
Yeah.
but spread out throughout the facility.
Okay.
And the tents are good because people can store some of their things inside the tent. Also, if anybody, God forbid, somebody has symptoms or things like that, it's again trying to keep people away from one another so it's not spreading from person to person,
Right.
that type of
Right.
thing.
Somebody would cough at night or something like that.
Exactly. If anybody does have symptoms, we would work with the health department to get them isolated off site, but the tents just help even with, if somebody doesn't have symptoms of it,
Right.
again,
Oh, I
keeping that
understand.
by themselves. And so on the 680 site, yes, we have the tent set up, 130 plus folks. On the 659 side, currently we have our family shelter there. And that's our parents and kids who are experiencing homelessness. And we have them inside of that building. As we approach the maximum number at 680, we would look to then transition folks over to 659 and the adult shelter areas there to free up some more space and ensure social distancing and everything like that. So that's where we're at currently.
Okay. And do you have any people, quote, off-site? I mean, off these 2 sites? Or is
Right.
every,
So we still have our folks out there in permanent supportive housing in the community.
oh, I see. Okay.
So they're out in apartments throughout the local
Oh,
area, and
good.
they receive case management services from
Okay.
our very talented case management team at Hesed House. So we still have
Okay.
them in the community. We've been doing in the past year, we've done some street outreach, particularly when we couldn't have new people come into our shelter. So we would load up a big truck with anything you could think of: food, water, clothing, over-the-counter medicine, toiletries, tents, sleeping bags, mail that we would receive at Hesed House for these folks. We'd bring case managers out so case managers could help with housing searches and things. And we'd go and meet folks out in the community and do street outreach. Now that's scaled back because we're able to, again, have more people come into Hesed House now than before. So we've had to be really creative with COVID, more so than we ever have before. And I think we've done a good job responding with that creativity to still serve all those people in need. So,
Yeah. And Joe, a few days ago, I don't know, I guess it was just a few days ago, but in the last week or two, I read, and I think it's been in at least one newspaper, The Patch, and I think it's been in others too, maybe, about, I'm going to show this on screen here now. I think I can get it up here. Well, it doesn't show too well, but anyway, that's a Patch article that you can get online at MSN with Patch, and just look up Joe Jackson on that and Hesed, and you'll find it. And anyway, the essence of the article, you appealed to the county board to help out Hesed House, and in two ways. I gather it was two ways. One was more immediate, and one was more long term. And you want to explain a little of some of the immediate and maybe the long term thoughts there, Joe?
Sure, absolutely. And definitely a good piece of advice if people are going to Google that, to put in Joe Jackson Hesed, because if you just put in Joe Jackson, you're going to get Shoeless Joe Jackson, the father of the Jackson Five.
I'm sorry, I wasn't going to bring that up. It was the back of my mind. I was going to say, are you shoeless? No.
I'm not wearing shoes right now, so there you go.
You live up to your name. Okay.
So there it is. We're asking for help in two areas, and the first is that short-term piece that you mentioned, and with that, that stems from that 680 warehouse space being a temporary shelter. As I mentioned, we have temporary occupancy for that area, and that expires here coming up in September of this year, so right around the corner. And basically what that means is if we can't get that area to be, quote unquote, winterized, to be able to make it through the winter, so heated, making sure that there are climate controlled restrooms and hand washing stations, those types of things, insulate the building. We are not going to be able to have folks stay in that area of that building. And what that's going to mean is 137 men and women are going to be out on the streets during a Midwest winter, which is not acceptable to me, and it shouldn't be acceptable to anybody. And the reason for that, again, is just the occupancy numbers that we're having to operate with these days. So we're making a plea to the county board because through the CARES Act funding, I think $92 million, which the county received, they're deciding how to divvy that up, and
right.
How much should go to local businesses, how much should go to local nonprofits, that sort of thing. And the price tag for those short-term renovations, we're thinking are somewhere around the $500,000 range. That's what initial projections are. We also need help long-term, because while we could get through a winter with those short-term renovations, they involve things like renting climate-controlled shower trailers and renting climate-controlled bathroom trailers, because there are no shower or bathroom facilities inside that warehouse space. So long-term, we would need that space completely renovated, adding on to the short-term work. So when we would insulate the walls and put up the heating and HVAC envelope inside with the HVAC units and the heating units, all those things, we would add on to that to further expand out and create dining areas, a kitchen area. So when our volunteer groups, our awesome volunteers, come in to make dinner for our guests, they have a facility that they can do that. Separate men and women sleeping areas, separate men and women shower and bathroom areas, storage areas, things like that. So again, we need that building renovated long-term just to continue the work that we're doing and continue to be able to provide shelter to all those individuals, the men, women, and children out there that are in need of shelter, both now and well into the future. So
this virus, I assume, is put a strain on the Hesed budget, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And so you're asking for $500,000, and community, the county, you need it now, not you need it in the next month, right?
Correct. Yes. So we
to have long-term plans, at least to tell the city that you got long-term plans to make it better for staying in that situation.
Right.
But otherwise, here's what you said. I'm going to put myself down, Joe, and it's I gotta get my act together here again, Joe. I'm sorry.
You're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to put myself together here. It's audio down, but sometimes at one time I didn't do audio down. That was bad. I talked and nobody heard me. But here's what you said. I'm going to put you down maybe a minute too, and I can read it. And we'll do it that way. 1 second here. I'll do the same with you, called audio, so you can still talk. Okay, here's what it said in the patch. This is an MSN patch story that let me get that up 1 second here. I'm doing it. I want to give credit where credit's due, Joe, here. And there's where the credit's due. Okay, it says choosing not to invest in an appropriately sized facility would be catastrophic for the finances of both King County and the city of Aurora, as well as, frankly, put the lives of residents in those two areas at risk. This is what you said it. And you said some other things too. I just thought that was an interesting quote, Joe. And I'm going to bring you right back right now. There you are. And I'll come back myself. And there we are. But that was the type of thinking that you were telling the county, if we don't do this, it's going to have more repercussions than you realize. Mm-hmm. And so you want the county and others to help you with raising $500,000 right now. That's the immediate probably thought, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yep. And I had one thing that we just discussed before we got on air here, but where did I do it? It's here somewhere. It's not happening, but it'll be modified. But we need other ways. I'm just going to put it briefly here. The Hike for Hesed is an example that is a way to fundraise, but this year that's going to be different. So you need other sources of funding there, and just keep awareness with Hesed House. That's HesedHouse.org, isn't it?
Correct. Yep.
And Ryan would say, and I made a mistake many times before, it's only one S. Remember that. Yep. Remember, it's one S, folks. My spelling's bad enough, but it's Hesed House. I got the house part, but the Hesed is Hesed. Now, that's a Bible word. It somewhat is an encompassing idea of love and reaching out in the Bible. And it's where the name of this house and the ministry came from. And it's an awesome name. And so I was going to ask you, I had a few more things to touch base with. Oh, then you're sort of, I did that article also mentioned, you're thinking some long-term thing, and you really want to, it was a wish list thing, but it's a nice wish to ask the county to help you out with a bigger building project, right?
Right, and that bigger building project is, again, there's a population out there that needs our services, and in the past we've been able to provide those services, and now with the reduced occupancy numbers, which won't be going away, those are sticking with us. We need more space to be able to do that, and that's where I mentioned the long-term ramifications to the city and the county, and also putting lives at risk. I mean, if we don't have the physical space for these folks, they're going to be out on the streets. They're going to be, in downtown Aurora. They're going to be sleeping on the streets and in parks and things like that. And in the winter, it's negative 20 degrees at night with the wind chill.
Right.
And the examples that I gave when I was talking to the King County board, you think about this upcoming school year and all these school districts going to remote learning.
Right.
Remote learning, I think it's a good option. It's going to keep, it's going to bring some normalcy to kids and everything like that. But if you don't have a house, or if you don't have a shelter that you can be at, how could you possibly do remote learning? It's impossible. And that's honestly a wish. When you think about if a kid is sleeping under a bridge in the middle of winter, the number one thought in that family's mind is going to be just surviving. It's not going to be on, are we getting, Johnny to log on to a computer every day to make sure he's up to speed on his studies and things like that.
Right.
And same thing with adults. You talked about the various reasons why people become homeless and why they experience that. If somebody is laid off from their job and, they're going out there and trying to find a new job, how can you expect somebody to be able to do that if at the same time they're worried about somebody finding them and their tent that they have set up along the Fox River, where they have all their possessions and everything that is so important to them? It's next to impossible. So, shelter is extremely important for people to be able to get back on their feet. It's a temporary thing. It's a temporary overnight emergency shelter. And if we're not able to provide that, the problem of homelessness, which is already, it's a huge problem, and it's going to get worse as the economy continues in the tailspin it's in. We're just not going to be able to respond in the ways that we have in the past, both at Hesed House, but also across the city and across the county, and frankly across the country. So we need to think about how we approach this, and how we can ensure that there's adequate shelter out there for everybody that needs it.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I want to ask you this question. Maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but has the county ever given money to homeless work in any way you know of? Have they given you some money in the past? Oh, it's through probably that one boat thing, right?
Through all sorts of various grants that are out there.
But you've gotten some money from the county in the past. Well, I was just thinking, the county should really be, that's a big thing. I was out in Los Angeles a few years ago, and I have a friend who runs a big gospel mission down there in Skid Row, they call it. And I don't know how that's happening right now. I read a little, but they were going to commit $100 million, the county was, to homeless in Los Angeles. It's really big down there. I mean, we got it big here, but they really got it big down there.
Absolutely.
It's just, so I was just thinking, the counties, this is part of their mandate, and they can think it's, they're coming from Chicago or something like that. That's probably what someone would say. We don't have to touch this because they're coming from Chicago. We don't want to make it too nice for them to come out to Aurora. And that's what we'll have a palace out there, and then they'll just be coming. You've heard those lines before.
Sure. And as somebody who's been out to the encampments along the river and talked to the folks who are out there living in tents, and as somebody who's actually slept in our shelter before, I can tell you, one, it's not a palace. It's very difficult.
I'm sure if you were going to building, you'd be a modest and appropriate way that way too. I'm sure it wouldn't be a palace, but the homeless do need help and services too. So I encourage everybody to work with Joe and Ryan here, and look at the website here at hesedhouse.org and just see what you can do. They also have needs on this, just general snack ideas, I guess, right? You're still collecting those type of things. You're not really collecting any, clothes right now or furniture things, right? You're just doing this snack type of thing or food thing.
Yep, we need individual bottled water, individual snacks, individual meal items, things like that. Again, just because then a whole bunch of people aren't putting their hands on the same thing.
Right.
And the clothing and furniture piece, the area of our warehouse that we're currently using for shelter is where we would store all those things in the past. So we're very much down on space right now, and we just can't.
Okay, I understand. Well, I hope we can, I'll give you some ideas later. Here's some ideas to get some of those helps to help people on that furniture stuff. I got an idea I'll give you on that. But so I thank you very much for being with us here, and I hope the people got a little better idea of what's happening and we just pray and hope for, you need $500,000 in the next a month here. Otherwise, people are going to be on the street. That's what we're saying, correct, Joe?
Correct. Yes.
So, and that's for long-term thinking too. But I mean, it's a similar idea. But we got to get right where we're at right now. And I pray and hope that would come. I hope my county board people that I know would be open to that, and others to that 500,000. So, but we need the community too. That's part of the community. We need everybody, churches and others. And you've been working blessed with churches, and
Absolutely.
they've been coming by with foods for you. Is that right?
Yep.
They do not maybe serve it, but they bring it by.
Exactly. Yes.
That's a very good thing.
Oh, it's
So
an amazing thing. We can't
we're
thank
thankful
our.
for those churches that are doing
Absolutely.
that. It's very blessing. And I'm just going to move on, and we'll sort of wrap this up here. We're sort of at the end of our time here. I'm just going to a couple more things here. Just remind everybody about Wednesday. I'm going to have Dr. Vincent. I always that last name. That's a French name, isn't it, Joe? Maybe?
I would throw out Bacardi. That would be great.
Thank you. I don't want to slaughter it too much. I'm not good at this.
There you go. I'll slaughter it. That's fine.
He's a nice guy, and he's going to talk about different things about politics, about race relations, and also about trying to test him. And we're checking out about Jonathan Blanchard, who founded Wheaton College, who was an abolitionist, and see if we can get some of our history going here on Wheaton College, which I thought was real good. So that's coming up on Wednesday. And here's things that I know we were just discussing, and Joe's using Aunt Martha's, but if you don't have Aunt Martha's or can't get to Aunt Martha's, we have COVID testing. It didn't come out right, Joe. I'm just not doing my things good here. It's not COVID tests. It's COVID test. It's testing it. I'll show you that. I'm going to show you that flyer here. You can get that now at the VNA. That's 630-892-4355. I got this number remembered. 892-4355. They're just doing it by appointment, and they really don't charge anything. If they do that, they put it on your insurance. If you don't have insurance, they'll get you through that. But so they're having COVID testing on the west side at Highland there. And then one other thing I didn't ask you about this question, Joe, but see how I spelled census? I was goofy today. I guess not all caps. We have a little, but anyway, the COVID and the testing and the census has Hesed been looked? Have people been saying that they're there yet on that front? Have we been working on that front with you? Have you been doing that?
Yes, we've been in contact with folks from the census, honestly, since the end of last calendar year. And COVID's put some challenges on the census as well, but we're going to make sure to work with the census, and everybody at Hesed House will get counted because those numbers are so vitally important to our community at large. So absolutely.
I know they are. So I appreciate that thought there. So I just want to thank Joe for being with us here today. And he's been a total blessing. And just remember Hesed House and their needs. We've talked about several of them, and just look at their website. Keep praying that that 500,000 would come, and other ways too, maybe, and that funding would come to help out those that are hurting on our streets and in our community. And I thank you, Joe, for being with us. And now I'm just going to say, God bless, and bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.